You may have heard that the population of the world is rapidly increasing. The Earth is overpopulated and is becoming an issue for the future of the planet. According to an article called Rapid Growth of the World Population and Its Socioeconomic Results from the Scientific World Journal, not only is the population growth in the world rapid, but it far exceeds the level of production and improvement of people's social needs. This means that if the world does not address this issue, there's a chance that people will start experiencing problems such as mass shortages of resources because the economy won't keep up with the amount of incoming people. However, another article called Third World Population Growth at Record High from PubMed says, out of every 100 people added to this planet, 97 are born in the third world. So, even though the overall population of the world is increasing, it's evident that it's only happening in the poor countries, while first world countries like America have a stagnant or even decreasing population. So you may ask, why is this happening in our country? Why is our population not increasing like the other countries? Are we doing something right that they're not? To understand this, we will have to go back in time to understand the feminism movement. The movement officially started in 1848 at the Seneca Falls Convention, when a group of people rallied for women to have the right to vote. Of course, the first attempt at that was unsuccessful, as women only got that right in 1920, more than 70 years later. Even though that movement started so long ago, it took a long time before the people behind it actually achieved what they were striving for, which is equality between the genders. On that note, average households remained in a traditional structure for a long time, with the man of the house being the moneymaker and the woman staying at home taking care of the children. However, around the 1890s, though in small numbers, women started entering the workforce. In an article called A Man's Place, Claudia Goldman, an economist of Harvard University, said, if you were a young woman in rural America and had gone to school beyond the 8th grade, you would probably have become a teacher for a while. So back then, even though women were entering the workforce, their career choices were narrow and short-lived, as they would come back to be with their families full-time. As the feminist movement stayed alive and time went on, other things were also happening throughout the world. As America joined World War II in 1941, there appeared to be an influx of women entering the workforce as men were leaving to fight in the war. According to another article called Women's History Month, U.S. Women's Labor Force Participation, from 1930 to 1950, the percentage of women in the workforce that were married raised from 26 to 47%. After women have entered the workforce in such numbers and figured out a way to make it work while being married, the focus didn't really stay on being married and working, but rather being more career-oriented. Claudia Golden says, less than 20% of college graduate women born between 1944 and 1954 actually achieved both career and family by their 40s. What this means is, as time went on, more and more women were so focused on their career that they have been deciding to not start families when young, which caused most of them to not start families at all. Fast forward to the 1970s, the article Women's History Month says, the amount of women in the workplace that had a child under the age of 1 rose from 20 to 62%. What this meant was that women started looking at work as something more permanent in their life, that they wouldn't leave it to go home to raise their children. This also started the push for sensitizing language in the workplace. As women became more permanent there, they pushed to ban sexist language and the behavior that made them feel offended in the workplace. According to the article called More Human Rights for Women, from the very inception of the feminist movement, its activists took an issue with unequal linguistic treatment of the sexes. When feminists started raising the issue of inequalities in the workplace, their focus was to eradicate the word man when referring to both sexes. In the past, this word used to represent human, but feminists saw language glorifying the male gender by letting man represent both sexes, as if it were perceived to be superior. As time passed, The gender-neutral language was integrated into the workplace as well as education, and this resulted in a more gender-neutral society. So even though the feminists didn't see much results when they were just starting off in 1848, their first steps did contribute to the society that we live in today. The shift in dynamic between men and women didn't just stay there either. The change in society also affected the structure of relationships. According to an article called Marriage and Modernization, in contemporary Western societies, changing sexual mores and gender understandings have been brought into the open and embraced as part of new understandings of relationship and marriage. In this article, the writer talks about how marriage is based on religious values, but recently our society has been moving away from that. This causes the purpose of marriage to diminish, and couples are left with no clear direction on how to live together. That's evident by the high divorce rates in our country. As people stopped valuing religion and started questioning the validity of these structures, gender roles have been getting washed away too. In the past, if the husband was the sole financial provider, the mother stayed at home and the family had confidence in giving attention to the children. Now, with both parents working, it is more common for couples to not have children so that their attention would remain on their careers. Now, you may ask, what's the big deal with having less children in our country? Isn't that helpful for slowing down the population growth worldwide? Well, as we already know, the overwhelming majority of population growth is happening in third world countries, countries where population growth does not interfere with the economy of our country. So, it's important to realize what happens in our country directly affects us. If the birth rate in our country slows down, as it has been, we are inevitably going to see a drastic population drop in the next 20 to 30 years. Though the overall population of the country is still at a healthy level, the older generation is bound to pass on, and the incoming generation will not be close to the amount of people as the older generation was. This in turn will lead to an economic crash, with the first domino being the depletion of Social Security. The article Population Shrinkage says, a large population of retirees are drawing from Social Security, while a smaller number of working-age citizens pay taxes to fund Social Security. The Social Security Administration predicts that the trust fund exhaustion will occur by 2037. Besides that, the infrastructure and other services in this country are created to accommodate the population we have right now, and a large drop in the population would mean a lot of the businesses are failing and services shutting down due to the lack of workers. It is important to realize the dangers of such a phenomenon that may occur in the near future, and to realize what is the root cause of it. Only then can we proceed to make decisions about how to approach the upcoming problem. Should we figure out a way to live with this kind of problem, or should we change something about the way we see things and live right now before it gets to that stage?